Liquid Lifers. Welcome to the first episode of Liquid Life. We are joined today by my good friend, entrepreneur, fellow artist, Jason Wright, aka Young Liver Ideas.
Hi.
Thank y'all for joining us today, and what a wild ride already on episode 1.
I'm excited about this.
Yeah, so I met Jason just through Instagram, to give a little backstory. A number of years ago, was attracted to his art, and then we met here in Los Angeles in person about a year and a half ago, and we've kind of become friends through that. And Jason started this company called Miracle Seltzer a little over 8 years ago with his creative partner, B. Tom Stevenson, who is based in Brooklyn, who is a neighbor of mine actually when I lived in Brooklyn. And what a small world.
Yeah.
And Jason has been a really integral part in my water entrepreneurship as I've been working on this company I'm launching. And I felt like he was the perfect guest for this first episode of this show. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk about water.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about water as well. And as you can see, we have 7 waters lined up in front of us. From this way to this way, the TDS, or the total dissolved solids, of all these waters increases. And so we start with the lowest TDS level, and now water is not just water. Water contains minerals and electrolytes inside of the water, and that makes it have its own unique mineral composition, of course, but also flavor. And so right here, I have a little handy dandy TDS meter. Now this TDS meter is actually typically used for pools, measures salt, pH, and a number of other things. But we're going to be using this to test the TDS of this water because all of these waters are living waters, meaning they're artesian well waters, they're spring waters, they're naturally occurring mineral waters, and they're from all over the world. And we'll get into each one kind of as we go throughout the process. And I have a question for Jason for each of these waters.
All right, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
I love, there's a few I've tried, there's a few I haven't.
And as someone who has, started a water company and been in the water business for 8 years, I'm excited to kind of hear your thoughts and your feedback on these waters as we kind of delve into them. So
there is a little bit of a trauma response kicking in for me, but that's okay.
Why is there a trauma response with the waters?
Because the water business there's a lot that goes into getting this water into its container, and it's as 2 artists that started a water company out of this philosophical ideal. We learned a lot of stuff along the way, and I've discussed it with you previously, here and there, but that act of bottling, canning, production, all that stuff was quite a nightmare to learn.
And so they say wisdom is being able to learn from other people's mistakes.
Yes.
And so Jason has been integral in hopefully transmitting some of that wisdom to me as I delve into this business deeper and deeper, going down rabbit holes. So should we start with the first water?
Sure.
All right.
This has got a lot of TDS in it.
So this is the lowest TDS out of the 7 waters that we have. This TDS is clocking it at 31 milligrams per liter. Now, I know in the water you were creating, you're probably using some sort of reverse osmosis.
Yes.
And so reverse osmosis, for people that don't know, is a filtration system and method that removes theoretically all of the total dissolved solids. And so you're able to use municipally sourced tap water and create a consistent product throughout many different regions and distribution centers and channels.
Now, having some of the TDS is good though, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so all of these are living waters, meaning Mother Nature has been the #1 filter. And there's different ozonation processes and other filtration devices used in a lot of the living waters, but TDS includes everything. And so this can be organic matters that you don't want, and these can be minerals and nutrients that you do want, like calcium, magnesium. And in this water in particular, they actually list out the waters on here. I've never tried this water. It's called Splendor, and it's marketed with having naturally occurring gold and silver in it on the bottle. And it says, the calcium, potassium, magnesium, gold, and silver levels for total dissolved solid of 31. So we're gonna crack into this bottle and see how it tastes. Bada bing, bada boom. So it's a sparkling water.
Ooh. Naturally sparkling, I guess.
So usually with the sparkling waters that are naturally sparkling, it'll say naturally carbonated. A lot of these mineral sources and naturally occurring sources do have some carbonation, but it usually reads more as an effervescent, meaning somewhere in between still and sparkling. And when we get later to the Sokosani, that is a naturally effervescent still water.
Great bubble. Not much of a flavor, which is good. Actually, maybe there's quite a bit of flavor.
He's going in for seconds, so that's a good sign. He came thirsty. So when you're measuring the TDS of these waters, you want to make sure that it's more at like a room temp, because if it's
We should always drink water room temperature, right?
to actually taste the water, everything.
But isn't it? I've always been told that it's better for the body to have room temperature water too.
Yeah, and in a lot of Eastern traditions, ice in water or ice in drinks is like absolutely a no-go. And actually drinking tea with your meal and the warm liquid being part of the digestive aid for the actual meal you're eating.
Actually, on the way here, so I drink a lot of water. I usually by this time of day I've had about a gallon, and I hadn't had. It was a very busy morning with the family. I was driving over here and I realized I didn't bring my water bottle with me, and I was very thirsty. So I stopped at a local purveyor, Starbucks, and got a bottle of water. Nice plastic bottle, very cold. Felt very harsh on my body, and you could tell, you listen to your body, that you're not supposed to drink something that cold. It hurt.
It hurt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was the story.
What kind of bottle of water?
Whatever the Starbucks brand is, they have that blue square on it. I don't really remember.
They do stock Fiji. I like Fiji if I'm going with the plastic bottle.
No, it was not Fiji. It's that, they have their
own brands.
Yeah.
Why do you drink a gallon of water? What is it? A little after noon?
I go to the gym in the mornings, and I'll just be honest. I drink about 2.5 of the. I reuse it. It's the Essentia large bottle. I think it's 1.5 liters, and that works out. So 2.5 of those.
And you're refilling it with water that you are
filtered, Berkey'd at home.
Yeah.
So
I think we've chatted about this. I had the Berkey here thinking that I was filtering out the tap water, and I tested the TDS using one of these meters of the tap water coming out of here in Koreatown, Los Angeles. It was 360 parts per million.
Oh, wow.
Now, to be classified as a mineral water, which we'll kind of get into later, it has to be 250 milligrams or higher. And so technically there's a mineral water coming out of my tap. And the Berkey was only filtering it to 348. And I was basically drinking tap water straight for a year. So I would get one of these meters. I'll actually give you one after this, and you can go home and see how much your Berkey's actually filtering
it'd be interesting to see how the difference between the Berkey and the fridge filter.
Yeah, those are some interesting tests to run for sure. Honestly, I feel like most fridge filters aren't filtering much out of there.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And as we talk about living waters and the nutrients in the water, your body needs sodium, it needs potassium, calcium, magnesium, all these other elements that oftentimes we're getting from our diet, but less and less so because of the genetically modified organisms and just mass farming, and there's less and less nutrients in the soil that these crops are, so these ways, these methods of us traditionally absorbing these nutrients that help us absorb and use the H2O, the water in our body, so that it's not just a solvent, is getting more and more challenging in many ways. And so the water that we're actually drinking becomes more and more important.
I agree with that. I actually, with drinking so much water, one thing that actually a trainer like put me on to was it can actually be bad for you to drink that much water if it doesn't have the right stuff in it. Because it just ends up flushing your system.
Exactly.
And so, but they put me on to you just really pay attention to the color of your urine.
Yeah.
Because you want a light yellow, not, of course, not dark yellow, but sometimes when it's just straight clear, that means you flushed your system and you're not getting the right nutrients.
Yeah. And water is inherently by itself a solvent. And so it can be good for those flushes. But, you know, coming back to this water in particular, I mean, we could test the TDS of urine. I mean, I don't know if anyone's done that on the internet yet to see what's in there. Maybe that's episode 2 of Liquid Life. So this is marketed as 31 parts per million, the TDS. We are getting a read of, it just shut off. I think it was a 39. And now with these living water sources, there is going to be differences in when the water data was collected versus what's actually in the current bottle you're drinking. So you're looking for something that's around what it's marketed as, and there's definitely a grace period.
You found that on the website?
So it's actually on the back of this bottle. And so with living waters, this information should be included on the bottle.
Oh, wow.
And so we're clocked in at 42 parts per million. That's good. That's a really good, clean, quote unquote, pure water. I'm going to finish this one off. I like the blue cobalt bottle design. And
but they're only accounting for the good.
Exactly.
31.
Exactly. And so what is not accounted for that's in that actual 42 parts per million, right?
Urine.
That would be pretty wild. Splendor, what is in your water? I mean, it's interesting. I've never seen a water marketed having gold and silver. I personally use a lot of colloidal silver in my life, so I know there are definitely some benefits.
I've had some entries in my life that colloidal silver was integral in healing.
Yes. We are definitely a fan of colloidal silver. What kind of injuries?
I almost lost my legs. So, big injuries.
Shall we crack the next bottle of water as we get into the leg conversation? How did that happen?
It was drugs. Drugs did it. But yeah, that was a big part of the Miracle Seltzer story, and part of how it got its name was through that process.
And Jason and I are both brothers in recovery, and I love that became part of the product and the conceptual level from the jump from Miracle Seltzer. And so can you explore that kind of relationship between your journey, your recovery, and actually creating this product that was a physical manifestation that became commercially viable and very successful through this traumatic, dark experience?
Yeah, I mean, so Miracle Seltzer came about, I mean, so the story with the legs is I had a crippling drug addiction, crippling in the sense that it actually crippled me. I was homeless, I had these injuries on my legs that actually nowadays have become much more common. You see it walking around Los Angeles a lot, but when I was the only person where I was that had this kind of thing, and it lasted for years, and I got sober, and I had these wounds on my legs that would not heal, and I had to bandage them every day. When I was homeless, I had to bandage them all the time, didn't take care of them, all these things. I got sober, and it was actually, I went, through the treatment process and all these, going to doctors, and they were just kind of like, there's nothing we can really do until you stay sober. They were kind of like, it's really risky, we'll just wait and see. So around a year sober, I finally found this doctor that would help me, and it was coinciding with learning this philosophy of prayer and different things like that, just by chance. And I was talking to, these people in my network and friends, and every time I was talking to them about this like process of healing I was going through, they would just ask me if I prayed about it. I'd never prayed in my life. I'd never tried prayer. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And so at this time in my life, I had to go to the doctor. It was like every Tuesday, and I started praying. And I always tell the story that the only thing I was praying for was that I would be cool without legs. I was like, please God, let me still be cool without legs. And so the doctor, when I found this doctor, he was like, essentially, what we have to do is get your legs healthy enough to amputate. Like, that's just where we're at. And so he was taking, I had to go once a week. We were on this journey to amputation, and I started praying. And one week I went in, and he was like, that's weird, because they would do graphs, they would measure, they would do all these things, and it was like, it closed a little this week. And then the next week I went back, and he was like, it closed a little more. That's interesting. And they're kind of just confused and perplexed, because it had been over 3 years of no change. And then the next week I went back, he was like, all right, something's going on. It's rapidly healing. And he was like, are you doing something different? And I looked at him and I said, well, I'm praying? And he laughed and was like, well, keep doing that. And my legs eventually completely healed, to the point that I didn't have to have them amputated. But they would call me their miracle patient. Like, it was something they had never seen before. They would cheer for me when I came in. I became like, because it was mind-boggling for them to see this happening. And so with getting sober and having, starting to take care of my body, all these things, I started drinking more water, started paying attention to that. A friend at some point turned me on to LaCroix. I'd never had that before. I grew up in a household where soda was king, and I started drinking sparkling water. I had a roommate that was Italian and put a tap on the fridge. And I was thinking about at the time, it was going into graduate school, like all the stuff. This is many years condensed into realizing I'm rambling, but I had this whole philosophy, the idea that we can't exist without capitalism. I was thinking of ways to then covertly change people's minds and what they look for in the world and their perception by using capitalism as a tool. And I was calling it capitalist surrealism. And I was like, well, all right, what if there was a product that was as generic as water, that was a signifier that miracles are also as generic as water, as can be seen if you just change the way you look at the world and you look for miracles instead of being on your phone or not in tune with what's around you. You can find miracles as crazy as my legs in every single second of the day. And so I was like, I want something, some signifier of that, and then developed the can and product that Miracle Seltzer that would then be, the whole idea was it was the catalyst for you, or is the signifier for you to start looking for miracles in your day, because that.
Thank you for that. And I do believe in the power of prayer, and it works. And that's an incredible story.
Yeah.
And for you to kind of go through that and then create a product for other people in a way, I think is a beautiful thing. And I think about that a lot in this product that I'm creating, and kind of transmuting and translating that power of prayer into the actual product. Because there's all this research that's now coming out about water being imprintable and holding memory. So what happens if, you pray over the water and the person drinks the water, what happens there? And I've been doing a lot of tests in my personal life, and it works. So it's a wild water world out there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and one of you talked about success, and Miracle has been acquired, and it's actually in somewhat of a battle right now that's a little bit above my head, and so there's the idea of success for me, especially in the water business. One is more just along the lines of sweat equity, where it's like I'm proud of the work I put into it over the years. But when it really comes down to it, it is that idea that started it. There was many times in this 7 or so years that I saw that in action. And I remember the first time we did a pop-up and installation and all this stuff, we were in New York, and there was a guy coming home from a construction site, and he does not care about streetwear, he doesn't care about fashion, he doesn't care about art, but he saw the can of Miracle and he was like, I need a Miracle. And I was like, that's what we're here for. And that's like that, starting that dialogue, and it happened throughout the years, and that being able to start a dialogue with a complete stranger about miracles and spirituality, and bringing people together over something good that was where I really felt success.
100%. And that's really kind of coming from art. Art really is a way to create conversation and to be that medium of exchange in a way. And taking that approach to water like you did is something that I'm interested in as well. Water being a starting point for all these other health and wellness and spiritual conversations, right? Shall we try the second water?
Sure.
All right.
Castle Rock I've had before, but honestly,
I have never had Castle Rock. I did a bunch of water shopping. This is a carbonated spring water from Shasta Springs here in California. So our one representing California water has a marketed TDS of 89 milligrams per liter. So about triple the last one. What do you think? Like it? Yes? No? Maybe so?
It has a little bit of like a citrusy flavor.
It does. I kind of ruined my palate by eating some milk chocolate right before this. I will not be doing that for the second episode because everything kind of has a strange acidic-y flavor to it. But maybe these two waters, I'm not crazy, and there is some acidic nature to it.
This one has a flavor.
The TDS is reading 57. So we're pretty hard stuck. 56. So they're marketed at 89. Again, low 50s all the way up to 89. I think that's a pretty reasonable marketing standard. It's about 56. I like that it's locally sourced because water is a solvent, so it'll naturally dissolve whatever it's stored in. So if you are buying plastic or aluminum, which is all lined with plastic, having that closer to where it was actually packaged and hopefully not sitting in storage or distribution for longer is better, in my humble opinion. I prefer a very high mineral content sparkling water, and we're going to kind of get into that with you. Alrighty, so let's get into this third water. This is Aqua Carpatica. This is from Romania, a natural spring water with a marketed TDS at 181.
Okay, so the Carpathian Mountains are in Romania.
Yes.
I had no idea.
Where did you think they were?
I have no idea. I saw something, I was like, could it be South America? Could it be the Alps? I don't know. This is still.
This is still. What do we think? I love the bottle design.
That's good water.
You can definitely taste the minerality in it, right?
Yeah, that has a mouth feel to it.
Yeah, we're getting the higher 100s.
Coats your mouth.
And it looks like the TDS is coming in 190, so very close to what it's marketed as. This is one of the highest rated waters by a lot of people who really love water and have done a lot of testing on the water. Glass bottle, everything of course is in a glass bottle, which we love. And I think this is a 750 milliliter, so it's nice because you can actually kind of carry it around a bit more. And my next question for you, Jason, is how do you see spirituality fitting into your entrepreneurial endeavors and your creative business practices? Because we kind of got into that with Miracle Seltzer, but I want to know kind of what that relationship is like for you. Are they one and the same?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, I feel like it's the classic, like, you get what you put into the world type situation. Like, especially I've had a child in the last, he's 15 months old now. I think a lot smaller but with spirituality, with ideology, philosophies, like at different times in my life I have been more aggressive in it, but now thinking about like how I can instill these values and beliefs in my child and then what that is carried out into the world. With Miracle, it was a little bit more aspirational in the sense that like one of the whole concepts behind Miracle was this Wallace Stevens quote where it is water. Human nature is like water; it takes the shape of its container, and so the idea being that like there was this philosophy that was imbued in the container, being the design philosophy of Miracle, and then that would project out into the world, and so it's like the idea is like you can make small ripples by doing, living your life a certain way. So whether it's art, design, even business, all those things, how you carry yourself is how I think you can touch the world and like slowly make changes.
Yeah, and you're now creative director for Born and Raised, an LA fashion institution in and of itself, correct? Yeah. And how long have you been in that role with Born and Raised?
I've been the art director there for about 2 years. Yeah.
That's a role.
Yeah, it's a lot. Born and Raised is all about telling stories and telling Los Angeles stories, and it's been such an honor to work there in the last 2 years and learn so much about this city and the communities here, and it's just been amazing to meet so many people and work in that capacity.
Yeah. Is there a Miracle Seltzer Born and Raised collab in the pipeline?
We've talked about, no, probably not with Miracle Seltzer, but we have talked about how to do more of commodities in that sector.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting.
It's also, one of the things which has been so much fun about the project, working there, is the idea of working on someone as like you're diving into this water world, and you're a painter and artist. You work on everything, your music, all of these things. It's solely your thing.
Yep.
It's your concept. It's your idea, and that's when like going to someone else's project and figuring out ways of being of service.
Yep.
And how to bring like my perspective, and knowing that my perspective isn't always the correct perspective, especially with telling some of these stories that are other, like it would be like the leg story I told, and asking someone that I just met how they would tell that story. It isn't always the right fit, but taking what I've learned through all these years of working on my projects and applying it to someone else's has actually been very freeing for my creative practice, where just as before we started this interview, I was talking about, like, I feel like now is the point in my life where I can actually paint solely for me, and rather than it having this end game.
There's freedom in those constraints.
Or like before, the last time I had a show of my paintings, there was a Miracle Seltzer component where Miracle was sponsoring the dinner or something like that, and it was always like tied to something. And now I can I'm more able to just see what comes out of me.
And you touch on this idea of being of service, and for me, we kind of mentioned this, is like through our art practice, we get to be of service to individuals by not only creating beauty, but creating conversation, community, connection, and providing an object of desire. Now with water, for me, it's a much more democratic way of being of service to people, where you get to be of service to people through a consumer packaged good, which is a whole other world, right? But you can touch so many more people's lives through those conversations and through those products. And on that note, shall we try the next water?
Yeah.
This is Agua de Piedra. And I've actually never tried any of these waters from this first part. And the final three waters, I absolutely adore.
Wow, it's a spicy water.
Oh yeah. We're getting more into the territory.
Strong bubble.
And a sour note to it as well. Do you get that? So this would be like
I don't think I could drink a lot of this water.
This is a competitor towards Topo Chico. This is from Monterrey, Mexico. I really like the light green tinge to the bottle that you'll find a lot in these Mexican glass manufacturing facilities. Topo has a similar kind of aesthetic to it as well. This feels more earthy than Topo Chico, less branded per se. And the TDS is marketed as 369. Now, technically, a mineral water has to be 250 milligrams per liter or higher. This is 369. So this is the first quote unquote mineral water technically that we have as part of this show so far. We're reading at high 200s, which isn't too far from 369, which is good, especially when you get to the higher TDS levels. There's a lot more room for, I don't want to say error, but more room for grace for the measured level when it was recorded.
Wouldn't it also change per bottle too, if it's truly
naturally occurring? Exactly. It can change per bottle, when the water was collected, what were the rain conditions, if it's a spring water source. When you get into the much deeper artesian wells, then the consistency becomes a bit more regular, I'd say. So this is tapping it at around 230. So this is definitely the widest ranging one so far from the marketed position, a little over 100, but it's fun trying these waters. I've seen a couple kind of Topo Chico competitors coming onto the scene and being stocked in various retailers and restaurants. I don't know if you have too.
Yeah, I feel like Topo Chico's also, they've really fallen off.
Why so?
Well, I mean, the plastic ones, they're disgusting. I mean, they were acquired too by
Coca-Cola.
Yeah. And it's
about 7-8 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah, it's definitely gone down. And they've also trying to do all the flavors. They don't need to do that. We don't need a grapefruit Topo Chico, let's be honest.
Grapefruit is always my least favorite flavor in anything, I would say. But I guess people enjoy it. And for me, Topo Chico is one of the most commercially available mineral water. So if it's there, I guess part of the show is going to be a lot of burping.
Yeah.
So we're now encountering that challenge. Jason, do you have a burp for us?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But we'll get there.
Maybe we can have like a burp cam. If you want a burp cam, comment below. We'll maybe have like an overhead.
Yeah.
Really, it should be a burp mic.
Yeah.
Well, this one you don't have to worry about burping. This is Socosani. This is a volcanic water from the Peruvian Andes Mountains. And this is when we get to that like high TDS levels. This one has a marketed TDS of 1,800 milligrams per liter. And this is a water I get from Sprouts that I drink often. And this is the still version. The still version is effervescent, kind of what we talked about earlier, where there is a mouthfeel of carbonation.
It's like silk coming out. It's almost a solid. I'm gonna be honest, that one's not for me.
I love this water. This has a bicarbonate level of 1,400 milligrams per liter.
Yeah, that's crazy. It kind of tastes like bath water to me.
It tastes sweet to me, actually,
Yeah.
after having that last water. Okay, why does it taste like bath water? It just feels kind of musty and old.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. Fresh bath water, but it has such a feel to it that I don't necessarily love.
It does feel more like a solid because there are so many more solids in this water. And you don't get it kind of broken up with the carbonation. Like, you really feel how heavy this water is, especially after drinking much lighter waters before it.
Yeah.
And so the TDS 1060, that's almost half of what it's marketed as, which I'm kind of honestly disappointed by. This is my first time measuring this water. Of course, again, having grace for them since it's a living water, but that is, almost 800 milligrams per liter off. And when you're buying these waters, yes, you're buying the water component, but really you're buying this water for the minerals that are included in it. It's like buying supplements. And before supplements were really an industry, the bathing industry was a huge thing. And these naturally occurring mineral wells, people would travel all over the United States and all over the world to come to these particular sites like Mineral Wells, Texas. And we are both big fans of these Korean spas and these Russian and Turkish bathhouses. And we were talking about that quite a bit before we started recording. I'm going to finish this one off. Fresh bath water.
Yeah, it tastes like it came straight from the Korean spa.
Now, switching subjects a little bit, you recently became a father a little over a year ago. You've kind of alluded to this in one of your previous questions that I asked you. How has fatherhood changed your relationship to not only creativity, but to your spiritual experience in these creative industries?
One, I would say, first off, fatherhood has changed everything. The first moment I heard him cry, it was that another, moment of clarity, like a very marked change in my life where I felt everything about me, every cell of my body change when I heard him cry. It's, with getting sober, I've had moments like that in the past, but this was very distinct feeling of this entire world is different now. And with that, as far as my creative practice, to be totally frank, it just doesn't matter as much to me anymore. Where so much of my life has been about, my artwork, my output as an artist, my how people view me and my art, and with having a child and having this relationship that I'm cultivating, and that none of that is important to me anymore. Of course, I still, I make a living through art. It still drives, so much of my interest in my life, but it's just not, it doesn't have, it's one of those things where, before I wanted people to know I'm an artist, and now I more want people to know I'm a dad, that's the great thing for me now. And, the idea of people not knowing I'm an artist, or oh, he's just a dad or a family, that doesn't bother me, which is I'll be honest, I never wanted kids. I was never me and my wife decided we were going to softly try to have a baby, and it took the first time we went to the doctor to see what we would need to do. We found out she was already pregnant, so I never really had much time to think about like, oh, I want kids, I wanted any of that. And I've always been, especially since being sober, like I have been selfish where, you know, I want what I want people to view me a certain way, I want to have these experiences. And in that moment of hearing him cry, a lot of that, I mean, of course it's a daily thing, but a lot of that shed where it's like, honestly, if I get to see him smile, that's what is exciting. Of course, I still look at it through a lens. Now, as far as like the spirituality and spiritual practice of my life and how that intertwines with my art practice, I wouldn't, having a child and trying to instill beliefs and values and ethics and, you know, teaching them things and expending time, that's a spiritual practice that like goes beyond any of the, I mean, of course in my life I've read so many books on spirituality and philosophy, got very heady in my life, and I've realized that none of that really compares to this bond that I share with Elvis. And yeah, I mean that, so I would say that my whole outlook on spirituality and art and all of that has become, it's just not as precious to me anymore, which I also think is an actual more spiritual way of looking at it. It's not, I think a lot of my like ego death in the past has actually been based in ego, and it's been in this like, some of my spirituality has actually been rooted in, you know, unspiritual desires, and I'm starting to see that through the eyes of my child.
And just thinking about how everything you just said kind of relates to water and talking about life, right? That's really what we're talking about when we're talking about creativity, is breathing life into something. And this idea that you're kind of playing with that's become more present in your life through having a child is this idea of all these elements being more liquid, right? There's more ebb, there's more flow, there's less rigidity to them. And I am about to become officially a father. I guess by the time this is out, we will have our child. My wife is sitting back here helping produce with all the technicalities of the microphone system. Hi, Jacqueline. Very pregnant. She does not like the attention. But it's really nice to hear that coming from you as someone who shares so many interests and passions. And it really, honestly, I'm super excited to have a kiddo and be a father. The ultimate act of creation, right? Having a child. And I was always seeking that in my creative endeavors. And I mean, it's definitely, from what I've heard from you and many other fathers, a whole new world, shall we say.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
And your son loves water right now.
Yeah, he's in his water phase.
Do you think he would like Ararat? This is a...
we do live... Did you say this is Armenian water?
This is an Armenian water.
Yeah, we live in an Armenian neighborhood. This is in all the bakeries around us.
Amazing.
I am a fan of this water.
This is one of my latest obsessions as far as waters go. I found it at Lassen's, and it's marketed at a TDS of 2,400, which is high, 600 higher than the Sokosani. Unfortunately, we're coming in at about 1,100, which is over half less than it was marketed. What do you think about this water?
I like this water, and honestly, it's funny. I haven't had it in a while, and it reminds me of what Topo Chico used to be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And why so?
It's a very spicy bubble. It has the mineral taste to it where it doesn't feel manufactured. it's very refreshing, but it doesn't have like the heavy taste of that one.
Yeah, I think the bubble definitely kind of breaks that high minerality up. We're clocking in at about 1,200 parts per million, the TDS level, which is half of what it's marketed as. That's a pretty big gap, but I still really love this water. I love the bottle design. I feel like I'm in Europe when I'm drinking this water. And this water is a great one for, after the Russian Turkish bath.
Yeah.
Are there any notes in particular that come out to you? There's a real basic taste to it. I'm getting a lot of baking soda. And honestly, I love Sokosani because it's so high in that bicarbonate, which is baking soda. It really helps with digestion. If your stomach's upset, you've had too many rich foods, too many acidic foods, drinking some of this water, I use it like Tums, to be honest. I really hate traveling when I don't have access to a high mineral water like this, because it is really a cure-all in so many ways.
Yeah, I agree.
It's also interesting to taste all these waters in varying TDS levels kind of back to back, something that I don't do on a regular basis. Usually I drink like 1 mineral water a day, and then I substitute with spring water in my day-to-day life. And last but not least, we have Vichy Catalan. Have you had this water?
I feel like I have. I haven't had it regularly. I've done, of course, as with anyone who starts a water brand, you try all the competition. We did at one point we were working with a food scientist developing like our formula, and part of that was like going through this process and like making notes about what we liked about each one so that the food scientist could like actually recreate it for us.
And what did y'all what were the main takeaways from that experiment for you?
Well, I mean, we were very focused on keeping it hydrating, but also like the trauma that I was talking about is also keeping it affordable, and then also we were selling sparkling water. That was our main focus. We did still as well, but our main focus was the sparkling. So we were talking a lot about bubble and mouthfeel and things like that. So
I think a lot of people get super hung up on taste and what the taste of the water is. And with LaCroix, for example, that water is reverse osmosis water. So it's standardized, municipally sourced tap water that is then added with carbonation. And then they add one or multiple of a list of over 270 natural flavors to the water. And these natural flavors, it's a lot like legal drugs in a way. One thing will get banned and then unbanned, and then there'll be loopholes and workarounds when it gets tied to some sort of negative health consequence, dementia being kind of one of them that's recently studied from these natural flavors. So I personally avoid anything with natural flavors. All right, so we are here with the Vichy Catalan. It's measuring in at 1,600 parts per million TDS.
That's the highest.
It is the highest.
It's also marketed as the highest?
It is at 3,000, so almost half of what you're marketed as is what you're getting.
Well, that's what everyone's doing, right? They're doing half of what they say, huh?
The last two are half. I'm curious if it actually might be partially the TDS meter. I don't think so.
Where does it say on the bottle here?
So it doesn't say on this bottle, so I did some research on my own. This water tastes crazy. This is I like high mineral waters, and this one is sometimes a challenge to drink much of. Woo! Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why I didn't give you very much. I'll give you more if you want.
How many booms does it get?
Boom! Oh, you took one big swig.
I like that.
I'm shocked you like this one
Yeah,
so
I like
much.
this one.
Did you let it? What does it kind of taste like to you?
It has a little bit of a salty flavor to it.
Tastes like ocean water.
Yeah, it has. I like that one.
Yes, this is a Spanish water, and I think some of that ocean water somehow got into whatever mineral source this one is in. The sodium level on this is off the chart.
Yeah, it says there's 1,100 milligrams of sodium in the whole bottle.
Yes. So the thing
That's great for you.
Well, the thing about sodium is it actually holds water in your system. So if you have a really great workout or sweating a lot, go to the Russian Turkish bath, you want to remineralize with some sodium for sure. And sodium, we think of it as like a bad thing, a negative thing, but no, salt is one of the most important minerals for our health and wellness for sure.
Yeah, as an aftertaste.
Yes. The main problem with Vichy Catalan are there are trace levels of arsenic in this water. So you don't want to be drinking this per se every day, but I really do love the bottle. I love the design. It is probably the most commercially available, most intense commercially available water on the market. And now we're at the end of the show. What was your favorite water out of all the waters we've kind of tried today?
I'm gonna go with my Armenian brothers at Ararat. I think that was my favorite. I would say this is my second favorite.
Really?
Yeah, and then this one, third favorite. This one was pretty good. This one's good.
Yes.
Median. And then trash.
They get double dooms. We gotta get AJ and Big Justice on. Yeah. I wonder what kind of water they drink. Definitely Costco water.
Yeah, they plastic 12-ounce bottles.
I'm picturing actually the Smart Water competitor that Kirkland produces. That water that says added with electrolytes for taste. That's kind of Smart Water's pitch. Electrolytes being minerals. And we actually just did a Smart Water review yesterday where the TDS was actually, I think, in the low 50s. So I was pretty impressed. Even though it's municipally sourced tap water that's vapor distilled, a fancy way of saying purified. But you know what? It's better than some of the other options out there.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, what are the things you're working on and most excited about next other than raising a beautiful kiddo?
Other than raising, that's pretty much what I'm most excited about. I'm collecting vintage cheese for him.
Prepping.
Yeah. That's it. I'm gonna do some books this year. Nothing major. Just spending time with Elvis and turning him into the greatest child to ever live on the earth.
He even has a neck tattoo of Elvis. You want to show that off for a second to the camera?
It's somewhere.
Yep, right there.
Yeah.
Old Elvis and the Spiral Jetty.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us for the first episode.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I love water.
I love water. And we'll see you for episode 2. Thanks, y'all.
Oh, yeah. We did it.
Woo!
Against all odds.
I don't know about against all odds, but
Most of the odds.